Hello, everyone, and happy Mardi Gras Day. This is Tom O'Connor and the eDiscovery Channel coming to you live from frigid New Orleans, Louisiana, where it's currently a balmy 26 degrees. That's right, 26 degrees. It is currently colder. It is colder in New Orleans than it is in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, or Washington, D.C. And we have had just a horrible overnight with the bottom of that storm that's moving across the country. And so, although Mardi Gras had already had a severe setback due to COVID and the cancellation of parades, it has also put a real damper in. I'm all dressed up and nowhere to go. I don't get it. But I have to start by saying, because it is Mardi Gras, I got to give a shout out to all the Mardi Gras Indians out there with a mighty kuya on a Mardi Gras day, and also Sun Pie Barnes and the North Side, Skull and Bones gang, who would usually be out at 5 o'clock this morning knocking on doors in the Treme neighborhood. I'm pretty sure that they passed on that. Whether they'll go out later or not, I don't know. And finally, the St. Anne Society of St. Anne parade and extravaganza that usually walks through the French Quarter today. And Gail and I always participated in that. Of course, they've had to cancel as well. And I suspect there would have been some people down there were it not for this particular pirate is not going off the galleon in 26-degree weather. That's all there is to it. I'm sorry. So, yeah. As always, joined by our compatriot, Rocky Messing. And I don't even want to ask you how warm it is in Tel Aviv today, because I'm sure it's disgusting.
No, it's cold here. They're actually expecting snow in a couple parts of Israel today.
No.
So, yes.
Wow.
In Jerusalem, they're expecting a little bit of snow. Not bad. Some showers. Yeah. Here it is already pouring rain and a frigid, I think, 57.
Oh, I'd die for 57.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rain. We had rain yesterday.
I'm wearing a hoodie because it's so cold.
Oh yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you're just shivering. And we are very pleased to have our special guest with us today, Ms. Maribel Rivera. Good morning, Maribel.
Good morning.
Maribel wears two hats. She has her own company, the Maribel Rivera Marketing and Event Services. But you're also and correct me if I get this wrong, the Senior Marketing and Operations Leader at ACEDS. Did I get that right?
Senior Director of Community Relations, which encompasses sales and marketing.
So you basically tell Mike Quaterero what to do.
Basically.
Good. Well, somebody needs
it. Or when he's wrong. I like to tell him when he's wrong.
Oh, well, like I said, you tell Mike Quaterero what to do. That is a full-time job. I'm sorry.
Yes.
No, we kid Mike. He's done a great job, and a small part due to your efforts as well, and they've not gone unrecognized. So congratulations on that. So let me kick it off by asking you, how did you get into, first of all, marketing, and then even more so, how did you get dragged kicking and screaming into marketing in the legal world? I've known you for years, mostly at Legal Tech, I think is maybe where we met. Is that right? Or ILTA?
I think it was Legal Tech first and then ILTA.
I'm sure I met you through Gail.
No, I met Gail through you.
No, really? Okay.
Well, actually, so I'll tell you first how I met Gail.
All right.
I met you originally. And I didn't know that you and Gail were married. And Gail and I actually met at ILTA. We saw each other from I think we were in ILTA, Nashville. Okay. We saw each other from across the conference area. We were both wearing, yes, we were both wearing high heels. And as you know, Gail was always in heels. I am always in heels at a conference.
Yep.
We saw each other. She loved my heels. She ran across the conference area, came up to me and said, "I love your heels." And she and I were instantly friends. And then that night she was with you. I think at a relativity party, and was like, "Well, that's my husband." And I was like, "I know Tom already," because I think I had met you through advanced discovery when you were there.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Or before that. It might have been before that.
Yeah, I know. It just goes back so far.
Yeah.
So how did you get into marketing, first of all? You're a New York native, or actually my friend from Brooklyn down here always corrects me. He owns a cigar shop here in town. No, I'm not from New York. I'm from Brooklyn. Thank you.
Yeah, we're very we like to be specific. So I am from Brooklyn, born and bred, but I've lived in the Bronx and Long Island, and so a little bit of all over.
Okay.
But
not Staten Island, I hope.
No, no,
Okay.
no, not there. But so how did I get into marketing? I got into marketing originally. So I started off in sales operations probably when I was 18, 19, working. Yeah.
Just a couple years ago.
Yeah. A few years ago.
Yeah.
So I started in sales operations, but little by little, I think I started learning more about the marketing side. They're so intertwined, sales and marketing, and you really have to partner with each other. So I think it was just normal for me to start doing some events and working on marketing materials with the marketing team and understanding what they were doing and providing back feedback from our sales team. And that was probably during my time at Nortel Networks, where I also learned a lot about, I was on the mergers and acquisitions team there. So I would fly across the country when Nortel was acquiring different companies and learn about each of the companies and how those companies needed to integrate their sales and products into the Nortel model, or how Nortel had to kind of model some of their things into how the other companies were doing it. They had so many various different products. And so I think that kind of made me move into that marketing a little bit more, because I had to understand what was going on with all of the different products and operationally also just processes that they had in each of those different companies. And then so Nortel, they had acquired probably like 30 companies in one shot at one point. And they had about 95,000 employees. And over a 5-year period, they did continuous layoffs. So when I was laid off, probably 5 years into it, I was laid off and I took a year off. I did some magazine editing for a hip hop magazine. And from there, I was home a lot with the kids. And then I was finally like, okay, my house is clean by 10 a.m. Everything's clean. The kids are in school. What am I going to do in my life? And so I started looking for a new job, and I came across a company called Legal Inc., who was in the middle of being acquired by Merrill Corp.
Yep.
And so I started working at Merrill Corp in sales, but that quickly turned into, and that was on the court reporting side. So I've kind of seen everything from court reporting to the whole EDRM process. And what ended up happening is there, I got involved more and more on the marketing side. And one of my mentors, two of my mentors there, probably Jason Velasco and Rich Vestudo, were both like, you could do more than just, I was an executive assistant there. So he was like, you're doing CLEs, you're putting on events for the sales team internally, externally. You're working closely with the marketing department. You can do a lot more. And I guess it was serendipity. By chance, my LinkedIn, David Cowan from the Cowan Group came across my LinkedIn and reached out to me and said, do you want to have a role running my events and marketing? And so I ended up running David's events and marketing for probably 4 years. I think that's where I met Rocky.
Yep.
Also, and probably you as well, Tom.
Hold on, I did not realize that you were at Merrill. So I don't think we probably did not overlap at Merrill. I would guess, because I was out of Merrill by 2004.
2007.
Okay, but you were working in the New York office then, like Timmy and Oleg and all of those guys?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So the yes. And I feel like all roads, every time I speak to somebody, all roads lead back to Merrill somehow. Somebody has, it's like 6 degrees of separation to Merrill Corporation.
Yep, exactly.
When did they buy LexterNet, Rocky? Were you there when they had bought LexterNet?
Yeah, they bought LexterNet, I'm going to say in 2002.
Okay.
Maybe 2001. Like it was a year or two before I left. I think they had bought them. But
so you got to work with Neil?
No.
Okay.
So I did not. I was working mostly with the team out of Cleveland that they had bought.
Oh yeah. I think you mentioned that before. Yep.
Trying to remember what the company name was, but yeah, the New York office was awesome. Like they were like their own little fiefdom in Merrill that, like, you know, we tell you what to do, big corporation, don't tell us what to do. It was awesome. So
it was. I mean, I think I left in 2010 and it was still like that, right? The New York office was basically, and they were the moneymakers. They had a killer team. They, you know, from court reporting all the way to electronic discovery, it was a big team. I mean, Merrill had a huge sales force anyway, but it was just a killer team there. I can't even tell you, like, you know, the numbers as far as court reporting, and then when they started doing electronic discovery, it was amazing.
Well, and let me ask Maribel. So your story is remarkably similar to Gail's in that working with somebody else saying, hey, can you help with this? You know, basically teaching yourself how to do much of this. When you were laid off, do you think that was because of lack of any professional certification? Was there a bias towards corporate wanting people with marketing degrees or specific marketing background? You know, is that something that worked against you at one point until you were able to kind of prove your chops, so to speak?
So I don't think when I was laid off at Merrill, I mean at Nortel, that was the case. I think at Nortel it was more, they kept the senior staff and let go of people who were more junior. And so since there were a lot of people at Nortel, there were a lot of people within the organization that had been there I was there for 10 years. And so there were people more senior than me that were there for much longer. So I think they kept on those senior individuals. But with regards to bias, and it's so interesting you bring it up, because I just had this conversation with someone that I mentor, because they're going through the same thing. And it is, I think a lot of people look at like a degree in marketing or a degree in communications, and instantly they're like, well, you know, they're much better than the person who is doing the work on a day-to-day and building the skills. And so there is definitely a bias. You know, I know someone who was just, you know, they were moved out of a marketing position because they don't have a degree in marketing.
Yep.
And I think that's a bias. I mean, that's a horrible bias to have, right? Because if they have the skills, the inspiration, the motivation, and the initiation to go out and do something and learn something, you shouldn't, you should actually take that in and kind of figure out, how do I use this? How do I empower them? This person is going to go a lot further. Whereas someone with a marketing degree, often, you know, they're just using their degree and then they're learning as they go. They may have the same motivation, inspiration, but that other person really wants to do the job and loves what they're doing. So I think it's always good to see, okay, how do I look at those two things?
And may have some hands-on experience in the specific field. That was what used to really irritate Gail. She would bang her head against that, you know, a small company would be purchased by a corporate company, sort of as you described. And the corporate company would say, well, we want people with marketing degrees. And she would say, but I've got experience in the legal field for the last 10 years. And they would say, that's okay. We've got a set of criterion, and that, you know, you don't even make the first cut.
Right.
She found that very, very frustrating, and of course loved then taking some small company and putting them on the map and kicking somebody else's butt in the marketing arena and say, you know.
I mean, so I do mentoring with the Coalition for the Homeless, their First Step job program.
Wow.
And a lot of those women, right, some of them have had jobs, some of them have paralegal certifications. Some of them didn't finish with a degree, right? They don't have a college degree because, of course, they come from underserved communities and there's not always the opportunity to go to college, right? That's not something that you can automatically do. You know, I wasn't privileged enough to have parents that could afford to send me to college. So I went to business school. I put myself through business school, and I think that makes a difference because I had to learn, you know, going through business school, I learned to code early. I learned, you know, in 1991, I was already learning how to code. I knew how to do WordPress before there were, you know, before anybody was really doing it everywhere. I knew how to do word processing before people were even doing Microsoft Word in offices. So we were already doing all of those things, and I had learned those skills, so I was able to mentor. But working with the Coalition for the Homeless, a lot of the things that we talk about is some of these women don't have degrees. So we try and teach them to go out and get certifications, right? Yep. Certificates. Yep. There's a lot of a lot of companies out there that give free training. You know, like Google, for Google Analytics, they have a yep. whole suite of tools that they go out and you can learn. So if you're interested in marketing, you can do those things. And so I encourage a lot of people who don't have degrees and don't have the means to go to college currently to go and do those things. Try and find as many of those things as you can. You know, there's a lot of things like the edX courses, Udemy, Coursera, all of those things. If you can spend a little bit of money, you can get a certificate in a various amount of things, from data science all the way to marketing, to English, right, to playing a guitar. So any of that is available.
Yep.
So you mentioned the mentoring, and as long as I've known you, you've always been involved in various different initiatives in regards to women in need discovery, and you know, working with the mentoring, working with I believe, you know, foster children, working with all kinds of things of reaching out. How's that impacted the way that you look at the legal profession? Because as a profession, historically, I think it's changing now, but historically the legal profession was not the most inclusive and diverse profession, putting it nicely. And you know, I think that there's been a lot of attempts to shift that narrative, and to not just the narrative, but actually change the facts on the ground. How has your work over the last 20 years or 30 years in being involved in these different things, how's that impacted the way that you look at the profession and the way that you approach it?
So I think one of the biggest challenges I had was being a woman in the industry and proving myself. And so working with women in e-discovery and working with, you know, I'm involved in a nonprofit called the Female Collaborative right now. I'm involved in another nonprofit called the Fierce Woman Collective. And so working with organizations like that, it's been able to help me and see that sometimes you have to step up and be yourself authentically, right? Speak up and do the things that you think are right. And I think in the legal profession, what quite often has happened, right, is that everyone has followed the path of the people before, right? This is how lawyers behave. This is how you have to behave. You can't be yourself, right? And then you find people like Tom and Gail, who are kind of like, this is who I am, you're going to accept me, like myself, right? I am, at first it was hard for me to say, let me speak up, there was a lot of misogyny when I came into the industry. I face a lot of extreme misogyny. A lot of the women I know that have come up in the industry have as well, and they still do to this day. And so I think we are definitely making an impact now. We're speaking up. We are starting to see there are things like, you know, supporting women, supporting our LGBTQ plus community, pushing those things forward. I think people like me who speak up, people who are mentoring other people to say, you need to speak up, you need to stand up for yourself. You don't need to hide in the shadows. I think that is all important, and making sure that people say, okay, I see you for who you are. I don't think I understand who you are. I see your opinion. I understand your opinions. And I think that's important for all of us. But if we don't keep doing that, we're just going to go back to the old ways, right? So we need to just keep pushing forward and keep moving the dial forward. We have to move it forward. It's so important because there's so many people who are still facing those issues in a lot of the law firms, right? There's a lot of law firms that are still in the 19th century, not even the 20th or 21st century. They're still in the 19th century. And so we've got to figure out, how do we help make the move? And then even with diversity programs and inclusion programs, those aren't always successful. People talk about diversity, but they're not looking at what's the impact we're really making, right? They're just saying, okay, we're going to put a diversity program in place, and they're not looking at the statistics. They're not looking at the numbers. They're not saying, okay, this is not working. How do we fix it? And I think that's an additional thing we have to start looking at. We have to start measuring that.
So is that something that...
I'm sorry to interrupt, Rocky, just an observation. It's funny, but right after the Super Bowl, the same sort of discussion was going on in the NFL about their continued lack of hiring black coaches and the recycling of the same old coaching faces that you see over and over again. I just checked it real quick. Women are 51% of the population of law schools in this country. They're not 51% of the partners in the AmLaw 100. I bet you they're not 10% of the partners in the AmLaw 100. So until we change that, it seems like we're pushing up from the bottom. And not that we can't accomplish things by doing that, but sometimes you need a little help from the top too. And that's, I think, like you said, things haven't changed all that much in a lot of places like that, and we got to push that change as well.
Yeah. And of those 51% of women, right? And we know there's not a lot of women partners in law firms. Of those, how many are white women? How many are black women? How many are Asian? So we have to look at those numbers as well. And in addition to that, the numbers as far as women who are partners, how much of them are making equal pay as the men in the law firms?
Probably not.
Because Equal Pay Day is coming up. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Get it in.
We're just going to keep pushing, the old Bob Marley song, again, the musical theme on Mardi Gras Day. Get up, stand up, don't give up the fight.
Yeah.
Right? You just got to keep pushing.
Exactly.
So what do you think, in your current role at ACEDS, you obviously have a lot of influence in terms of the direction that education within the e-discovery community goes, and the legal technology community in general. Maybe not so much on the law firm attorney education side, although ACEDS does get involved there as well. And but what changes do you see happening since you and Mike basically took over ACEDS a year and a half ago? Year and a half ago? Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, year and a half.
It's amazing. But what things have you guys been working on? What are you trying to really push to help from, again, that initial stages of educating and getting people more involved? Because it's hard to get, especially from a minority perspective and women in technology in general, not just e-discovery and legal technology, but overall, it's hard when they're not there to begin with. So you can say that we're going to educate and we're going to do things for the people in the industry, but if they're not participating or not able to participate to begin with, or have no interest because it's not shown to them as a potentially viable career path, then, which I don't know that anyone is given a legal technology, from the beginning as here's a path that you should consider. Everyone falls into it somehow or another. But what are the things that you're involved with now, and what are the things that you're going to be pushing over the next year or so?
Yeah. So we actually launched the Inclusion, Diversity, Equality, Awareness and Action Committee. So IDEA, the IDEA committee at ACEDS. It was one of the goals that I was given to achieve last November when Mike brought me into ACEDS. And so the goal was to come up with a committee globally to help move inclusion, diversity, and belonging forward. And with that, we are actually working on webinars and programs, resources, you know, on a monthly basis to raise awareness. And we've also told all of our chapter leaders. So our chapters, we've got 26 chapters. We're probably going to have 30 by the end of Q1 globally. And all of the chapters have been told to work on working with Hispanic Bar Association, the Black Bar Association, the Women's Bar Association, working with local nonprofits that help students, college students, around diversity and helping them to understand there are other roads for them as far as legal technology and law. ACEDS is also, so Barbary, which is ACED's parent company, is a huge supporter of Pipeline to Practice, which helps drive diversity into law schools. And so we support that program. In addition to that, we're working with Relativity on their Fellows program, which helps to educate in the underserved community and bring students in into the Relativity home so that people are learning Relativity, but also e-discovery and potentially have a role at Relativity long term. We're also working with Concilio. I've spoken with them on their diversity programs, so I've been a speaker there. I'm working with the Stellar Women of Relativity to talk more about diversity and bringing women forward. So I think at ACEDS, they've kind of had me moving in this direction where I'm bringing all of these to light. So for example, this month is Black History Month, and Wale Alegbe of Deloitte and I are going to be working on a panel that will be at the end of this month to talk about not just celebrating Black history and understanding and empowering the people around us during Black History Month and empowering their voices, but how do we go beyond just this month, right? It has to be on a monthly basis. It's, you know, if Black history isn't just 1 month, it's every month. Right. And so we have to do it on an ongoing basis. Right. Yeah. So we're, you know, ACEDS has been really supportive and actually pushing me to make sure that I accomplish diversity goals. And we've got chapter leaders globally. You know, we're a very diverse bunch. And I don't know if people actually understand that. There's even the ACEDS national team itself is diverse. We're probably 50% men, 50% women. We have various people from various different ethnicities and races that support us. You know, as a global organization, our members are from I mean, we've got members in Ireland, UK, South Africa. We're about to launch our Latin America chapter, right, which encompasses South America and the Caribbean and Central America. We've got a chapter possibly in India.
I see a trip that we're going to need to take soon with Maribel.
I think you need some board members to go down there and help the outreach. Yeah,
exactly. So we're really trying to drive diversity. We're really trying to support the communities around us. And I'm driving that with, I think, because people know that I am so passionate about driving diversity and, you know, driving people to help underprivileged and underserved areas, that the people around me have actually been inspired to do more themselves. And that is motivation enough for me to do more than what I normally would do. So I'm constantly working with people and providing options for them to get involved.
Would you tell your kids that the legal profession and legal technology is a good place to be?
So funny, my younger son is actually the marketing coordinator for eDiscovery Advisory.
Really?
So he works for Jason Velasco. Yep. and he, he has supported me for a long time. He works for me for a long time. He's been helping with marketing and doing all the things, and he finds it really interesting because, like you said, no one just says, I'm going to be a legal technologist. You kind of like moved into this world, and so everybody has these various different backgrounds that are so interesting, right? It's like a kaleidoscope. So the e-discovery industry is just this kaleidoscope of people with, there's people who are historians, people who are art history majors, people who are theater majors. I can't even tell you how many people are so talented at the musical instruments. So it's not just the legal piece, but just understanding who these different people are, their backgrounds, where they come from, what they're passionate about. And so my son has actually seen that, my son Dean, and he's gotten to know people, right? Not only is he intrigued by all the things that we do as far as legal technology and how we do it, right? Because legal technology, I think people don't always know what that means. They just know people work in a law firm and that's it. But he's been intrigued to see, everything from iManage all the way to, relativity and trial productions and, court reporting, all of these various different things that make up the legal technology world. And so it has been interesting for him.
That's cool. I did not know that. So glad that was a good lead-up question.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even more fascinating than that is because we're so involved with data. And I think one of the fun projects that we've been working on with eDiscovery Advisory is that eDiscovery Advisory has just taken everything they know around compliance and security and GDPR and data management and created a vaccine scheduling site for COVID. So they're taking all of that knowledge and actually extending it outside of e-discovery and legal technology.
Very
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the pandemic impacted the way that you work and the way that you have been able to interact? Because obviously conferences have been hard. Virtual is people have done amazing things virtually, but it's still not the same. How has it impacted the way that you work?
So I'm an ambivert, so I can work by myself for a while, but I do miss people. I do miss being it's very different to be online and be in a room with people because I feed off their energy, right? It's almost like a battery boost for me. When I'm in a room filled with people, you can feel their auras, that you can feel how they are. It's a little more personal than just being on a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams or anything else, a FaceTime, or any number of apps that people have been using like crazy. I do miss that in-person connection that you get with someone. It's very different to have constantly just being on a video call with people. It's so different. As far as impacting my work, I think I've been more busy because everybody is just sitting down and working on a constant basis. And so I've had to make sure that on the weekends I try to unplug. If not, I'll be working constantly. And I think that's the only downfall, right, is the impact on too much work, work overload, not getting away from your desk. Sometimes you're sitting there all day and not getting up because now you're on video calls instead of getting up and going to a conference room for a meeting or going into town or into city for a meeting and walking around. And so I think those are the things I naturally miss. And I don't think it's been good for everybody's mental health. So I can't wait for conferences and just back to life.
What was your, or did you have a pandemic hobby that you picked up or some other type of outlet? Or
Rocky, I have 50 million things I do. So,
I know.
So pandemic hobby, what have I picked up? So my son actually got me doing puzzles again. So I would say puzzles is my pandemic hobby. I used to do them as a kid all the time with my dad. And so my dad passed away last winter. And so that's been something that I've picked up this year. So I would say doing giant puzzles has been my pandemic hobby. Of course, home organization. So I think I spring cleaned like 50 times already in the last almost 12 months. What else have I done? But I've been really busy. I've got a big summit coming up where Soledad O'Brien, Sally Krawcheck, and some other individuals. I don't know if you guys know Ja Rule the rapper, but various different people are coming to speak. So I've been working on that nonstop.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Tom, why don't you take us out?
All right. Well, our traditional last question, Maribel, is if you could spend 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, with somebody from our profession who you may have met, or maybe haven't even met, wish you did meet, but somebody from our profession could be living or dead. And it doesn't have to be work related. You wouldn't have to be planning something if you wanted to go shoe shopping or, deep sea fishing, or whatever. Who would that person be and what would you do?
So this is a good one, and this is for Tom because he knows this means the world to me. So Gail is my shoe shopping, my shopping person, so it would be Gail. She is my soulmate every time I saw her at a conference. And so she and I can chat about everything and anything for hours, go away from each other for 20 minutes and come back and still be chirping away about 50 million different things. So it would probably be Gail. And not just because I'm on this with you guys, but because she meant the world to me. And then, of course, if I would have to say living, it would probably just be, please get me back to a conference soon because I want to see everyone.
Everyone.
I just want. There's just so many. I
in the middle and let everyone converge.
I told Mike, when this is all over and everybody's okay with hugging, I'm just going to set up an ASIDS hugging booth at Ilta and just everybody just come by, hug each other. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I want.
It's funny you should say that because that is such a big deal in New Orleans. People here are very touchy-feely. They hug each other. They kiss. They, and you mentioned earlier, the impact of COVID and mental health. It's been a real strain here. It was awful. I know that Gail struggled with that quite a bit because she loved people and contact so much. And then in New Orleans, where we have concerts and music and, Jazz Fest, which had been canceled, she just missed that sort of personal contact. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the shoe connection here between Gail and Maribel has actually made its way into Mardi Gras, correct?
Oh yes, you're right. I should have brought it with me. I'm sorry, but there's pictures. I've posted pictures on my Facebook page. There is a crew. The groups that do the parades are called crews with a K, and there's an all-female crew called the Crew of Muses, and their theme is shoes. Their signature float is a giant high-heeled shoe, and the queen rides in the float, and they throw shoes to the crowds at the parades. Different groups have different signature throws. The Crew of Zulu throws painted coconuts, and the crew of I think Nick's throws hand-painted purses. It just all depends, and somehow Muses fixated on shoes. Well, when we were giving away all of Gail's clothes, and you mentioned the ladies who you're helping to get back to work, we gave a ton of her clothes to Dress for Success. All of her business suits and business shoes went down to Dress for Success, which was a great way to continue that as well, to give them some clothes that they could use to get back into the market. But we tried to figure out, I don't know how many pairs of shoes we gave to the Crew of Muses so they could decorate. when I met the president or the queen or whatever her name is the other night, she told me they still have 150 left over. They were decorating and then going around to hospitals and nursing homes and, just doing sort of a personal crew of muses. And they actually brought a couple of shoes, one for Seamus and one for me, and hand delivered them to us on his birthday, which was great for him. And you don't know this, Rocky. Of course, there'd be no way you'd know this, but Maribel had requested a couple of pairs of shoes. Which did you get them?
I did, and they're
actually
actually being framed, and they will hang in my office.
Yep, Maribel requested a couple of pairs of shoes. She requested a pair of shoes that looked better in the photograph. They were a little worn. There were a few coffee stains, and yeah, those yellow shoes were well worn because that was one of her favorite colors. And so I sent her 2 pairs. Yes. Gail was memorialized in the Crew of Muses, where she will be part of Mardi Gras forever. The other 150 they're going to use in the parade next year. So it was a great tribute to her, which I'm sure of all people you could appreciate. People are throwing these fancy shoes of Gail's that have been painted up.
I'm going to have to go to Mardi Gras next year so that I
can. Oh, you got to come. Or actually, depending on when it happens, we are going to do a formal second line for Gail at Jazz Fest. And depending on the whole COVID thing, the next Jazz Fest could occur before Mardi Gras next year. So we'll keep you posted, but we're going to get a permit and a brass band and
or we'll go down for both.
Yes.
Or both. Yeah, that's right.
We're going to keep visiting Tom.
Yeah.
There's plenty to do. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Okay, Maribel, thanks so much. We really appreciate your being with us. That's some great insights on what you're working on and the things you're doing to help move all of us forward in society. And hopefully we'll see you at a conference soon. ILTA keeps saying they're going to try to do one this August. I don't know. That's aspirational, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. I think Relativity Fest may be more likely in October.
I hope so. We'll see. I'm hoping
that's aspirational as well, but yeah, I think they've got a shot at pulling that off. Again, depending on how things go with the vaccinations and the virus and all. So, but anyways, yeah, I'm like you. I can't wait to get to a conference. So thanks so much for sharing with us, Rocky. Thank you. And once again, I said I would brandish my sword before the end. Happy Mardi Gras. We'll see you in the immortal words of Professor Longhair, the great musician. We'll see you down at the corner of St. Claude and Dumaine to see that Zulu King. See you next time on the eDiscovery Channel.